Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? At this time, I would like to turn the gavel over to Dr. Kathleen Stone for the purpose of installation of the President of the American Podiatric Medical Association.
Thank you, Dr. Kreitman. Will the Illinois delegation
Yes.
please escort Dr. Pickard up to the front?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 101st APMA House of Delegates. Introducing the 96th President of the APMA, hailing from Illinois, Show College, and the University of Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, your next APMA President, Laura Pickard!
Thank you, Illinois, for a wonderful and rousing rendition in escorting our next president of the APMA into the House of Delegates. Dr. Pickard, you've been elected by your colleagues to the highest office in this profession. Your duties will be many and varied, and we trust that you will perform them to the best of your ability. I will now administer your oath of office. Please raise your right hand. I, Laura Pickard,
I, Laura Pickard,
in the presence of these witnesses here assembled,
in the presence of these witnesses here assembled,
do solemnly promise to faithfully serve
do solemnly promise to faithfully serve
the American Podiatric Medical Association as president
the American Podiatric Medical Association as president
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I further promise that I will be fair and impartial
I further promise that I will be fair and impartial
in my dealings and will uphold the bylaws of the American Podiatric Medical
in my
Association.
dealings and will uphold the bylaws of the American Podiatric Medical Association.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure, personally and professionally, to present you with the gavel as the next president of the American Podiatric Medical Association.
Yay! Wow, thank you so much. And thank you, Matt, for that great Chicago sports theme introduction. Appreciate it. I would first like to briefly introduce to you all my family and friends here. Without their support, I certainly would not be here. So first and foremost, my husband, Randall Meyer, your first APMA first gentleman. He may be behind the scenes, but he's front and center in my heart.
Aww.
My two boys. Walter Meyer just graduated from University of Wisconsin, and he's my Badger. He graduated with a civil engineering job, and he's gainfully employed. Yay. My younger son is now a freshman at the University of Missouri, my alma mater. He's studying journalism. We'll see where he ends up. Then my favorite brother-in-law, I can say that because the other four are not here, Rick Meyer and his lovely wife Maurizia. My two girlfriends from Como. Probably nobody understands what the word Como is. Como is short for Columbia, Missouri. I've known them for over 30 years. Sherry Hines and Mindy Doak. My friend from Chicago, a colleague of mine, and was actually my maid of honor 26 years ago, Dr. Lisa Shaney and her husband, Nick. My brother, Alexander Stewart Walter Pickard, or otherwise known as Stu. Glad he can make it. He's from Austin, Texas. And we have our delegation. Where's Mary Feely? There you are,
There
there
she
you
is.
are. Mary Feely, she used to be the executive director for Illinois Podiatric Medical Association. Strong proponent of women and young women getting into the field. She really pushed leadership. A lot of the delegates you see from Illinois are a direct result of that. So I appreciate all the work you've done, and I'm glad you could make it, Mary. That's great. And then, of course, the Illinois delegation. So thank you for introducing all them. Speaker of the House, Executive Director and CEO, Board of Trustees, APMA delegates and alternate APMA staff, family and special guests. I humbly stand before you as the 96th President of the American Podiatric Medical Association. What an unprecedented time to be the president of this organization that continues to work tirelessly to champion our profession. If you would have told me back in 1991, when I finished my residency, that our profession's education and training would be where we are now, I would have said you were crazy. Or better yet, and probably more appropriately, I would have said, show me, since I was born and raised in Missouri. Our previous APMA presidents, Board of Trustees, and House of Delegates must be commended for the foresight of Vision 2015 and the Pathway to Parity committees, which, along with state and national task forces, approved a blueprint to move our profession forward along the path to parity, starting way back in 2005. We have worked hard to establish the collaborative relationships we needed to help us bring our goals and objectives to fruition. Although we have yet to accomplish our ultimate goal of parity, together we have accomplished many crucial goals and objectives along the way, including the establishment of a standardized 3-year residency in 2013 that took, yes, a little more than 10 years to accomplish. So where do we go from here? How can we best leverage our accomplishments to forge new pathways to parity? And the really, really tough question, how hard are we willing to fight to push forward? We will also need to set new goals and objectives by engaging a broader cross-section of all of our leaders, stakeholders, members, including academia. Our various intra-professional organizations can no longer work in a bubble. We are just too small not to pool all of our various talents, skills, experiences together to present a unified front. Once again, APMA is already planning to update its strategic plan in 2022 and will request the input from members, including component leaders and delegates. Additionally, as a direct result of the stakeholders' feedback, the APMA Board of Trustees has proposed at this House a policy proposition supported by the creation of work groups to develop a path forward based on our shared goals. Who here is willing to step up and become engaged? I think we know that answer from this afternoon, to create a new pathway in collaboration with the Committee on Physician Parity. Many questions are still unanswered. Are we overtrained or under-licensed now? What would a DPM with an unlimited license based on their education and training look like? How would it vary state by state? Could it eventually lead to a National Practice Act? I know it would definitely lighten the load for APMA leadership and our staff, not only in hours spent fighting discrimination, but also financially. These are all questions we could not even have thought about without the hard work over the last 16 years. Our profession is now in a position of strength. But if we do not continue the journey and its momentum now, then when? We all know that our education and training are second to none, but how many healthcare providers really know how much we have advanced our profession over the last 2 decades? I submit that we need to continue to educate other healthcare providers, legislators, patients, and any other healthcare entity. Many healthcare outlets still do not publish our latest education and training. If any of you see that in print, please let APMA know so that we can correct it immediately. Our podiatric medical student graduates have more opportunities than ever. Our schools and colleges are associated with major teaching institutions. Again, we have a standardized 3-year residency program, and we work side by side with MDs and DOs. But do they really appreciate our value? How can we show them our advancements in healthcare if, for example, we're not allowed to take ER call? Yes, in many instances, Hospital privileging is much better than it was 20 years ago, but we still have a difficulty practicing to the full extent of our education and training in many different settings. Unfortunately, I believe this will continue to occur because hospitals continue to merge and become larger conglomerates. When I mentor potential podiatric medical students, I always get the same question. Where do you see the profession in 10 or even 20 years? I know my answer is that I see this profession expanding its role in this healthcare environment if, and only if, we continue to drive home our education and training to all healthcare stakeholders. Our ability to work both conservatively and surgically is the key to that mission and thus our future success. We cannot select one or the other. We must maintain and expand our podiatric prominence in every healthcare setting in which we are providing essential services. Only in doing so will we continue to be the premier foot and ankle specialist. We all know that healthcare model is changing with or without us. As they say, the train has already left the station. When I applied to podiatric medical school, I was only slightly familiar with our profession. But now our potential podiatric medical students are very well informed and savvy about our profession. Social media has been a game changer as APMA has shared the podiatry experience with teens and young adults. Working with our current students, who are the face of this profession for prospective students, we have been able to engage tens of thousands of young people in a profession they might not otherwise have considered. We must work together to expand the work APMA and these individual student influencers have begun. The stakes and the tuition are just too high to expect potential students to commit to this profession without a clear understanding about our profession, the value we bring to healthcare, what their career will look like. APMA cannot do this alone. We need academia to engage to establish a truly representative picture of what podiatric medicine and surgery has to offer. While we contemplate our future, I can certainly assure you that other healthcare professions with less education and training are actively and aggressively advancing their profession in this increasingly competitive healthcare market. We must find new ways to adjust to new payment models, such as value and outcome-based payment programs. We must not be left behind. Inaction is not an option. It will only weaken our profession and ultimately negatively affect our patients. They too are counting on us. So let's all agree we have much work to do. But let's look at all the things we've done with our current 5 strategic pillars at APMA, established back in 2015 and updated again in 2018. The first pillar is advocate. So whether we have parity issues with federal healthcare, private healthcare systems, or with patient access to our foot and ankle care, APMA will advocate on your behalf. When our legislative goals, including the HELP Act, need a champion, APMA will advocate on your behalf. Then there are those states, Alabama, Massachusetts, Mississippi, that desperately need to modernize their practice acts. APMA will advocate for them also. Those states' patients are suffering because we cannot provide the services they desperately need, and the Center for Professional Advocacy is working tirelessly on their behalf. Pillar 2 is educate. Not only does APMA educate our members, but also consumers, healthcare providers, legislators, and communities. Whether our members need a cutting-edge virtual education experience with a just-in-time learning or a traditional opportunity to learn and network together in person, APMA will educate. Our online CECH has expanded the unmatched educational portfolio long established by the National. Whether a member needs information on governmental programs or coding via podcasts or webinars, APMA will educate. When our members depend on public knowledge of podiatric medicine and surgery to fill their waiting rooms, APMA will educate. When we need to ensure a sustainable future pool of prospective students for our schools, APMA again will educate. And finally, when our own educators need to hone their skills, APMA will educate. Pillar 3 is research. This pillar cannot be emphasized enough. Research is becoming more and more essential in providing our worth, or proving our worth, not only in the existing fee-for-service healthcare, but the rapidly evolving value-based care models. The current discrepancies in research are being used against us with legislators, insurance companies, federal healthcare plans. We must step up our efforts and increase research in our field to prove why our service is essential in this aggressively changing healthcare environment. The APMA registry is now beginning to produce meaningful data, which has really exciting implications for the future. But the role of robust research cannot be overstated. The APMA registry will only be as good as its contents. APMA has made a significant commitment to the registry, so we must make it the best it can be to help fuel quality outcome data and research. I commend those state components that are currently engaged in pilot programs and other studies designed to collect and produce much needed data for our profession. Pillar 4 is lead. APMA will continue to lead with the highly successful multimedia Step into Podiatry campaign. The campaign, despite seeing a significant decline in funding recently from the profession, continues to produce outstanding results. We've reached more than 18 million prospective students, generated close to 350,000 visits to the Step into Podiatry website, and produced nearly 1,400 member requests. When our current students need scholarships to ease their financial burdens, APMA will lead with more than $419,000 awarded this past year. Whether we encounter state-by-state scope of practice threats or discriminatory policies and practices from insurers, APMA will lead. As we look to the future, APMA will nurture the leaders of tomorrow. Our young physicians have very specific needs, so APMA will continue to lead with our Young Physicians Institute, the Young Physicians Leadership Panel under the direction of our young physician member, Dr. Rebecca Sundling, and new initiatives still to come. APMA will also lead in the inclusion of every voice in podiatric medicine with a new DEI committee and a student engagement committee. Finally, we will lead by ensuring that our members have what they need to thrive in today's challenging healthcare environment. We surely recognize that physician well-being is a significant issue, and we have provided significant resources to support members who are struggling. Finally, Pillar 5 is manage. Despite an ever-tightening budget, APMA will continue to manage this organization by establishing a strong and sustainable membership base. Whether the funds come from dues or non-dues income, APMA will continue to offer new services to our membership in every stage of their career and every practice setting. APMA will also continue to be the best steward for the association's assets, investments, and reserves. In 2020, the APMA Board of Trustees forgave a full quarter of members' dues, cognizant of the impact that the COVID-19 public health crisis had on our members' practices. We were able to do that because we have been protecting our reserves and investments, considering all of our expenditures through the lens of our strategic plan. The board takes its fiduciary responsibilities very seriously and will continue to safeguard the stability of the organization. So what's this Pillar 6 left over? By the way, that's the University of Missouri quadrangle. It's our columns. So we got one left. What do we do with that? Well, this pillar will be defined by the input we receive moving forward. We recently completed a major member value proposition survey among members that provided significant data to help us shape the priorities of the association moving forward. I ask for your continued input before our strategic planning meeting with the Board of Trustees and APMA staff so that we can best defend, protect, and advance our profession in this rapidly changing healthcare environment. I could go on about all the work we've done under these pillars, but be assured that APMA will continue to advocate, educate, research, lead, and manage. No other profession in this healthcare or medicine comes close to do what we do for our members. In conclusion, I ask for a brief point of privilege. Over the last year, I've been asked many questions about my presidency, but two have really stuck out. The first is, what is your agenda and what do you want to accomplish? Well, as you can probably tell by this speech, I think my agenda has been set, and I gladly accept. As far as what I want to accomplish the most, I would say that I want to carry the torch for a more unified profession in order to move us forward. The second question is, what is your leadership style? Well, for me, that's a pretty straightforward answer. I'm going to lead just like my father did as the director of bands at the University of Missouri for over 2 decades. I will ask the best effort of this organization like my father did with his marching band. I will ask everybody to do their part, then come together and play as one cohesive unit to play our profession song while we march together. As my dad used to say on many occasions, there may be bands out there who play better or march better than we do, but no band will put on a better show. So I tell you all, there may be other healthcare organizations out there that play louder or march many more members than we do, but no one will outperform our show complete with our unifying song. Thank you so much. I ask for your support, and I look forward to a great year. Together we win. Thank you.